So, there was one time your comedy works, Taika Waititi.
Those were up, and they did.
More smarts and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for the, 16th film of the MCU. And I know one comes before, but I'm skipping it because I don't qualify it as an Infinity Saga film. I consider it more of a separate thing. And that film is going to be for the next third installment of MCU. To me, what is the final trilogy of the Infinity Saga to me, and the final trilogy that the final of the big three to complete their trilogy. To me, this is where his story ends. The next one that comes after does not qualify, or ever will qualify. And that film is going to be for November 2017's Thor Ragnarok, directed by Taika Waititi. What's the plot? Well, imprisoned on the other side of the universe, the mighty Thor finds himself in a deadly gladiatorial contest that pits him against his own ally, the Incredible Hulk, his former ally and fellow Avenger, and Thor's quest for survival leads him in a race against time to prevent the all-powerful Hela from destroying his home world and Asgardian civilization. So how is this made? Well, while promoting the release of Thor the Dark World in October 2013, Chris Hemsworth expressed willingness to portray Thor for as long as people wanted more, adding that he was contracted for another Thor film and 2 more Avengers films. Producer Kevin Feige stated the next Thor would build from elements at the end of the Dark World. In January 2014, Marvel announced that Greg Kyle and Christopher Yost would write the screenplay for a third film, with Feige again producing, and the story was being outlined that July. At the end of October 2014, Feige announced that the film would be titled Thor Ragnarok, with a scheduled release date of July 28, 2017. Then Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston were even set to return as Thor and Loki, respectively. Hemsworth earned $15 million for the film, and Feige added that the film would be very important in Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And also confirmed that in context of the film, the word Ragnarok means the end of all things. And he felt that people will not read into that title alone for what the movie is going to be. Then in February 2014, Marvel pushed back the release date to November 3rd, 2017, and that April, Feige was expecting a draft for the film soon, and a month later he stated the director, additional screenwriter, and further casting announcement would be revealed towards the end of the summer, and with filming set for June 2016. The Dark World director, Alan Taylor, explained that he would not be returning, as the Marvel experience was particularly wrenching, and he was sort of given absolute freedom while they were shooting, and then in post-production it turned to a different movie. So that was something he hopes never to repeat and doesn't wish upon anyone else. During 2015 San Diego Comic-Con International, Jaime Alexander stated he would reprise her role as Sif in a very pivotal part of the film. She did not. Then in October 2015, Taika Waititi had entered negotiations to direct Ragnarok. Other directors under consideration were Ruben Fleischner, Rob Letterman, and Rosalind Marshall-Thuber. Elizabeth Banks expressed interest in presenting a pitch for the film, but never met with Marvel to do so, and thank God. Marvel presented the prospective directors with the 10 different ideas they had for the film, and asked them all to come back with a clever picture of what the film would be, and Waititi created a sizzle reel for the tone and some joke stuff using clips from other films, including Big Trouble in Little China. And despite being discouraged practice within the company, Marvel considers Waititi's role to be amazing, particularly in use of Led Zeppelin's Immigrants for the score, which Feige felt defined what Taika was going to do with it, and the song was later used in the film itself and for marketing. And then he decided to pursue directing the film. After staying in 2012, he had no interest in directing big features, but Waititi said he felt like a guest on Marvel's universe with the career for him to do what he wanted. And Waititi was confirmed as director of the film for multiple news outlets later in October. Then in the same month, Mark Ruffalo even finalized a deal to reprise his role as Hulk from the previous MCU films, which was confirmed shortly after. Hulk was last seen at the end of Age of Ultron, traveling in a Quinjet, which was originally planned to be shown flying near Saturn. And Feige explained that this was changed to an Earth-based location to leave Hulk's fate ambiguous and dispel rumors that a film based on Planet Hulk was in development, since Marvel Studios had no plans to adopt the storyline at the time. According to executive producer Brad Winderbaum, the idea to include Hulk in RANGNAROK came early in development when the production team looked at the Planet Hulk story and felt it was no-brainer to integrate Hulk into the Thor franchise. Exploring the idea of a planet where Thor's gladiatorial games at a Thor predicament, and it was a really cool idea to them. Feige further explained that initial discussions had focused on doing something totally different with Thor, and centered on continuing relationship with Loki and ideas for Hela, Valkyrie, Balder, and Beta Ray Bill, but they were like they needed to do something big. And this turned discussing Thor going to space and jokingly calling it Planet Thor, which led to including Hulk in the film, and revealing that he ultimately went to space at the end of Age of Ultron. So after the film was shot and marketed, Thor Ragnarok premiered in Los Angeles on October 10, 2017, and was released in the United States into theaters on November 3, 2017 as part of Phase 3 in the MCU. And unlike the other Thor films that either received positive or mixed reviews, this one received critical acclaim with praise for its acting, Waititi's direction, and the action sequences, visual effects, musical score, and humor, and many critics called it the best installment of the Thor series. At the box office, it grossed $854 million worldwide and became the highest grossing film in the series and the 9th highest grossing film in 2017. And a sequel was released in July 2022. To make a story short, it sucked dick. The end. Moving on, we don't need to talk about that bullshit. That bullshit is not canon. As for my reaction to Ragnarok, well, I'm no longer a fan of Taika Waititi, but this would easily have to be my favorite of the Thor films. Yes, I do prefer Thor as more serious, like in the previous two films, but I feel like this one has the more character development, and hey, it at least does know when to shut off the comedy, at least during the fight scenes and the important scenes. There was even a great starting sequence that was pure magic. The banter, cinematography, and the action. What I admire about this film was Taika Waititi's brilliant humor. Being from New Zealand, appreciated even more so. The action sequences were slick, crisp, and actually watchable, as opposed to many other movies who cover up the action with motion blur, too much camera work, or just not enough scene time to appreciate the spectacle. And Hulk and Thor were brilliant in this film. The CGI was the best, easily for Hulk, and his scenes with Thor were hilariously funny. Hela was hellish and I loved it. Her story interestingly made sense tying into the movie and not making it feel forced. Supporting casts like Valkyrie, Scourge, Korg, Grandmaster, Loki, Odin, etc. all had their place and they all had their moments to shine, which is hard to do in a movie with a load of characters. And Thor has short hair which works. The Mjolnir getting destroyed does not affect the story. It did get restored, and it did slightly get it back in a certain Avengers movie. It made the Hulk talk in this one, which I thought was kind of cool. I do prefer him not talking, but it gives him somewhat of a personality. He becomes quite likable. And yes, Bruce Banner's human form does make an appearance. Cate Blanchett is amazing as usual. Even heads up for Idris Elba and Tom as usual. Especially knowing Loki is a big fan favorite. And as I mentioned, there was a lot of comedy, but it's not overused, unlike the last Thor movie. And this time it actually works. Like, it's Guardians of the Galaxy 1 style comedy, and it gives a great tone to the movie. Thor was never really a favorite among a lot of people. He did have a good first movie, not a great second movie though. So nobody knew what to expect with this one. But turns out people absolutely loved it. Like the opening scene, the humor does feel a bit awkward, but it does get better throughout. And even the whole cinema of people was laughing when I went to go see this in theaters when it came out. I've seen several people did compare it to Guardians of the Galaxy, which is quite accurate. And Chris Hemsworth as Thor once again was brilliant in this movie. He suited the humor really well and played it up quite a bit. It wouldn't be a Thor film we didn't have a shirtless scene at some point, but who's complaining, to be honest? Like, in my opinion, the character's a lot better without the love interest of Jane. They got rid of Jane finally, thank God. Who for me pretty much brought absolutely nothing to the first two movies. She's conveniently tied off with some random human mentions that she dumped Thor, and that's all we hear about her at all. Now, Valkyrie, I think, was supposed to be the new love interest, and she did share one or two moments with Thor throughout the film, which was She's this drunk, feisty Asgardian elites, and did have some personality in the later half of the movie, a little more than Jane, but sorry to any Jane fans out there, but the dynamic between Thor and Hulk was pretty fun too and much better, and it was definitely a welcome addition to the film. Tom Hiddleston as Loki also was amazing as always, so he was even more funny as ever compared to his last other appearances. We still don't really know what he's doing. At some point, he does try to save Thor, and the next he betrays him again, which is kind of annoying. But the thing that still hasn't been explained for the first movie, though, is that he is a frost giant while he does have godly powers. But at the end, there are some brotherly bonding moments, and all seems pretty good between them. And this is the movie where Loki finally redeemed himself and actually finally acknowledged himself as Thor's brother in this movie. So at least he finally redeems himself in this movie. Now let's talk a little bit about the plot. Thor wants to prevent Ragnarok, which you probably know is pretty much the doomsday of Norse mythology. While in Midgard discussing with Odin, Odin passes away, meaning Thor's evil sister is released from wherever Odin's magic was containing her. And the thing that seemed a little strange to me is like nobody knew who Hela was. She was around when Odin was conquering the 9 realms, so did no Asgardians remember that? Like, I'm not sure about the whole evil sister thing. We did already have that with Loki, but oh well. But if Hela is literally the goddess of death, why wouldn't she just kill everyone? Everyone with the click of her fingers, so she's super powerful, everything. Like, well, you know, but they were saving that for another villain. Like how Thor can summon lightning. Like, and I had to give props to Taika Waititi for his direction. And the film feels very fast-paced, energetic, and fun overall, in a good way. And the reason why it's different to most of what MCU gave us so far is that, again, it's filled with humor most of the time, and it's a straight-up superhero comedy film. And that's what makes it MCU's most audacious film yet. Sure, the previous MCU films may have humor, but throughout the film, it's laughs and giggles. Though it sounds bad, the film is mainly comedic. The way the comedy is executed is very well done. And the action is very well executed, visually stunning. The film is very colorful, and I love the animation for the closing credits. And Ragnarok is eons ahead of Thor the Dark World in my eyes. It's better than the first Thor movie, but the first Thor movie is still good. It's one of those rare threequels that's better than the films which came before it. And considering how supposedly formality people were starting to perceive the MCU films at the time, that's saying a lot of great stuff about this movie. Thor Ragnarok has the mythological scale of something like Lord of the Rings, over the top of Richard Donner's Superman movies, an extra sprinkling of the Hulk and the Gladiator costume to top all this insanity on a perfectly gorgeous combo. And we've seen hints of it before, but Ragnarok fully unlocks Hemsworth's Thor as a likable comic figure capable of personal growth. He's actually evolving to the great king he must become while getting funnier with each appearance. The return of Ruffalo's Hulk is more than welcome, so much so that the only complaint with the film's eye-popping action is that there isn't enough of him in the final battle. Even Anthony Hopkins as Odin gets to have some fun doing his version of Odin as played by Loki. Among the newcomers, Thompson does somewhat shine as a conflicted, swaggering, too cold for Asgard Valkyrie, but her alcoholism, the gods drinking problem is addressed all by the film. The most lovable of the new characters are the gentle blue rock pile revolutionary warrior Korg, voiced by Taika Waititi, who, unlike the last Thor movie, he was actually kind of tolerable here. He did work for this movie, and he didn't hog up the whole movie at least. And as Hela, Cate Blanchett kills it. Like, Hela was co-created by one of the greatest comic artists of all time, Jack Kirby, and unlike some superhero movies, Ragnarok dives deeply into Kirby's incredible designs. The 2-time Oscar-winning actress achieves the full Kirby, chewing his scenery with razor-sharp fangs and eyes shining with malevolence, while looking comic panel perfect doing it. And all the characters, old and new, brought something refreshing to their identities, their own charisma and personalities. As a result, they're stimulously familiar and unfamiliar, and that's where the fun is at. The film's temperament didn't feel like a typical serious end of the world film. It felt more like a series of bloopers. The camera catches the behind-the-scenes banters and quibbles. The jokes and the humor are spontaneous, and the atmosphere is filled with good cheerfulness and Bonheim. If you've seen the film, you'll know what I mean when I say it's the funniest bits of the Hulk jumping out of the plane and Loki and Thor playing Get Help. There's so much chemistry between Hemsworth, Hiddleston, and Ruffalo. Nothing even feels forced, even. Another film that comes to mind, I think, of vibrant colors, was definitely Guardians of the Galaxy, which was another film in the MCU. This film was quite similar, but with its own wit and pleasant surprises. And I think the humor is kind of more effective at genuine here than it was in Spider-Man Homecoming previously. It catches you off guard because they happen at the most unexpected moments. It's truly hilariously entertaining. 1980s music and score by Mark Mothersbaugh is fitting and extremely addictive and extremely fun, and you'll enjoy all the cameos too, as well. And during the finale here, and I really love the finale with this movie. The finale was perfect. When the Thor, Hulk, Loki, Hulk, and Valkyrie finally get back to Asgard to stop Hela, they get some of the best CGI witnessed in a Thor movie, with Thor. After, he battles Hela, he loses an eye, not like how Nick Fury loses his. It's actually done badassly in an actual fight. He does manage to realize he gets this vision with Odin, pretty much telling him, you don't need a hammer to be a god or a king. He realizes that he never needed no hammer. Right here. I really wish they kept that up with the Avengers films. Here, I really wish they kept that here. He realizes he doesn't need his hammer. to take down Hela or stop Ragnarok. He just literally lets his whole lightning powers take her down, and when he shows up, Immigrant starts playing. I got so hyped in the theater when that happened. And it's just one of the best final battles in MCU, where they're pretty much all battling the whole Hela's army, evacuating the Asgardians as Immigrants playing in the background. That's one of my favorite fights in the MCU. And I really like how his eyes glow whenever he has to shoot lightning. I always wanted him to be like that. Thor has a really drastic character development. Yeah, like, and even a tragic one too. He's lost his father, he lost his mom. Soon his brother, we all know that's going to happen soon. He's now learned about his deadly sister. Even his friends were killed. His precious hair was cut by none other than a cameo of Stan Lee. And he continuously got taken down by Valkyrie and lost against Hulk. His entire planet got blown up and his people encountered Thanos in space, well, soon, eventually. And yet, it's somehow still the funniest MCU movie yet. But the comedy did not ruin those moments here. They still kept the seriousness when it needed to be. And like, yeah, Asgard gets destroyed, but Thor realized something when Asgard got destroyed here. He realized Asgard's not a planet. It's a whole town of people. Asgard was never a planet. Asgard was really all the citizens living on the planet. That was Asgard. He realizes that. This had perfect morals here. Like, it was perfect for a Thor movie. It perfectly completes his solo story arc. He just evacuates all citizens and he just lets Asgard end. And you can still have an Asgard in a different area. It's the only way to destroy Hela. So Hela's destroyed in the end on the ship. But sadly, it seems like a happy ending, and Loki actually has redeemed himself and actually decides to stay with Thor for good. It's a real him after Thor makes sure it's him. And he decides to take his people to Earth and put Asgard there. But then you have the post-credit scene, and I really love the post-credit scene here. Like, what happens is after Asgard is destroyed and Thor decides to take his citizens to Earth, Loki asks him, "You think it's a good idea for me to go back to Earth?" And Thor's like, "I'm sure it'll be fine, but sadly, that's not all. That's a bad thing because eventually some suspenseful music plays, and you literally see Loki look up with a very horrified look on his face, and Thor's just like looking up in confusion. Guess what, guys? It's a spaceship. It's not any spaceship, though. No. It is none other than the ship, the Titan, that belongs to none other than Thanos. Yes, this was during the time Thanos was searching for the stones, and unfortunately, he's now found Loki. And Loki's pretty much realized that he was going to die if he failed Thanos, and he's already having that horrified look on his face because he still remembers the time he tried to kill New York. Which was technically all Thanos is doing. Thanos was technically the real main antagonist of the first Avengers. Loki was kind of just brainwashed into doing it. It's a perfect setup for Infinity War. It got me so hyped for that film and for the release of the trailer to hit weeks later. However, does the movie have bad qualities? Yes. Like, first of all, the comedy can be off-putting to many people, especially those who prefer a more serious Thor, but I feel like they evenly balanced it out here, and at least Thor wasn't and hey, the one good thing is, at least Thor wasn't a dumbass in this movie, unlike the last Thor movie. And I do hate how the real Odin gets one scene, which I felt was kind of a waste of Anthony Hopkins. And that was another thing I hated. They basically Alien 3'd half of Thor's friends from the first two movies, and they don't even mention where Lady Sif is at all. Even Heimdall's kind of wasted in this movie in like a few scenes, which really sucked too. I do wish we kind of saw more scenes of Bruce Banner's self. Like, once he turns into Bruce Banner, but at least we got to see more scenes of Hulk. And this was also the last time we ever saw Hulk be useful, because we know what happens to the character after this. And I'm going to say this, but while Korg and Valkyrie were tolerable here, I don't really like their characters. They were fine in this film. Korg was fine in this film, but the later movie, like, especially Love and Thunder, they just ruined him. They made him so annoying and a complete nuisance to the MCU. And then you have our female lead, Valkyrie. Valkyrie, I just find her annoying. Especially this movie. And I just cannot stand her character. Now, I'm bashing the character, guys. I'm not bashing Tessa Thompson. I like Tessa Thompson better in the Creed movies. Much more than Valkyrie any day. I will take her in the Creed movies over Valkyrie. However, did those bad qualities were in the movie? Nope. Because Ragnarok I thought was still a blast. In the end, Ragnarok is totally worth a watch and buy for those who love Thor, and for those MCU fans, and for those that want to see the final build-up for Avengers Infinity War. Well, we do have another solo film to get through before Infinity War, but technically speaking, Infinity War comes right after this movie, so this movie is kind of meant to build it up. But whatever. Anyways, that's it for my review of Thor Ragnarok. If you're wondering how I'm going to rank Ragnarok, here's how I'm going to rank this movie.
So overall, if you are a Thor fan and want to see the more fun side of the character, then I would highly recommend watching and buying this movie for your MCU collection for sure. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Thor Ragnarok, I'm going to give Thor Ragnarok a 9 out of 10.
There we go. That wraps up my review for Thor Ragnarok. So you're wondering, what's going to be the next MCU review? Well, that's probably not going to be till likely this weekend, but the next MCU review is going to be for what turned out to end up being the most overrated film of the Infinity Saga, but it stars a legend who sadly got passed away in 2020 before its sequel could come out. Yep. Black Panther's the next one. And this is one I used to like, but my reception of it's kind of gone down as the years progress, so let's see how this holds up. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.